Trey had a more laid-back, soft-hearted kind, didn't joke on people.
I believe he sustained the punch to the face before he fell down, face down on the ground.
He was my fishing buddy, and still today I practice tackle boxing and fishing pole, and we still go fishing every day.
And then either he rolls over or somebody pushes him over to expose the surfaces that were beaten with the objects to cause the injury to the back of the head and the back.
An atrocious death for a 14-year-old boy. And now tonight, our bold question: did father and son murder together? Let's take a look at the evidence from the prosecution side. Vinny Politan over at a very different HLNTV.com evidence room tonight.
Absolutely, Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, I'm here with Joseph Scott Morgan, death investigator. It was all about science in the courtroom today. So we're going to take you for a view and a look into what was taking place inside court. Let's begin, though, by taking a listen to the medical examiner for the prosecution in court today, talking about the skull fracture.
Trey had multiple injuries to his body, mostly to his head, face, and back. Looking at the characteristics of this wound, I felt that this was what we call a chop injury. A chop injury is a type of sharp force injury in which you have a heavy object that has a sharp end on it, so something like an axe or a machete.
All right, Joseph, let's pull back the sheet and explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what we just heard and what it means, the significance of it all.
Yeah, what the physician is talking about, she's talking about this large area that's in what's referred to as the occipital region of the head or the backside of the head. And the confusion is coming up here. In her report, she talks specifically about sharp force injury. And then we have some people that are talking about baseball bats, which generate blunt force injury. And what she's saying here is that there's no indication that this was a blunt force injury, that it's sharp force.
Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't. It makes no sense whatsoever because she's confusing the topic here. In her report, she says specifically sharp force injury. Even on the stand, she said it, but then she kind of backs off of it and says, well, there's a possibility that it could have been blunt force.
Other injuries in the head area that are significant?
Yeah, this is a major one. She talks about him being struck in the face and the eye, and it knocks him down. Here's the most telling thing, Vin. Right here in the left aspect of his face, he's missing, or he's had at least 4 teeth chipped.
She said it was from a punch.
Impossible. There's no way to generate this with a single punch. And the fact is, I believe that this is blunt force trauma with an instrument of some kind. To chip this child's teeth to the point that it knocks him or renders him incapable of taking care of himself any further.
All right, something else you talked about was the fact that Trey's face was down in the mud. Let's take a listen.
I believe Trey may have suffered also a bit from positional asphyxia. He was found face down beside a creek bed. When I received his body, his face was flattened. I could tell that he was face down for quite some time.
So how does he die?
Well, let's go back to this injury back here. This area controls our primal brain, which controls all of our motor functions and everything. I think that he's still alive. He goes face down. He's face down in the muck, in the mire, in this swampy kind of area where they find the body, and he actually suffocates. This is what's referred to as positional asphyxia. He's incapable of moving or anything like this. His face is flush with the mud. He's inhalating this. There's even...
Can't breathe anymore.
Can't breathe anymore.
All right, let's take a listen. Now, the big question, was it multiple people? Was it different objects that were used? Here's what she said today.
Are you able to say whether one person or more than one person committed all of the damage to the back?
No, ma'am, I cannot. I can't say exactly what object was used. It could be consistent with a heavy, sharp object or repetitive blows from a blunt object.
All right, Joseph, she can't say what it was, whether it was a bat or a pipe. From your perspective, can you tell what it was, a bat or a pipe?
Well, I have to say, this injury on the backside, since there is no tissue bridging, it appears to be something that may very well be consistent with a sharp force injury. However, this injury on the front side, this very well might be consistent with a blunt force injury, like a pipe or a bat. Yeah, quite possibly could have been a bat, could have been a pipe. We don't know. Could there have been more than one person? Yeah, there could have been more than one person. There's no way to really tell.
All right, Ryan.
Vinny, as Joseph and you were going through that, I see our jury here just astounded really kind of grossed out that this would happen to a 14-year-old boy. And Otis, our juror number 4, I saw you just shaking your head. What's your thought on all this?
This is very heinous. To do something like this to a child, it's just cold and calculating. And I'm just wondering, is the murder scene actually at the creek bed? Because you're talking about his face being smashed down.
Mm-hmm. That is where it is. All of this happening at that creek. And imagine what this young man's life must have been like at that moment. A lot more to come. The defense is going to get to cross-examine Joseph Scott Morgan. That's coming up.
Every now and then you hear something in testimony and you say, wait a minute, is this a smoking gun? Today we heard that. First of all, we hear all of the blood that was at the scene. There was so much blood. And the detective on the stand said that he interviewed Joshua Gauker a little after 1 o'clock, right when the body was being identified. He said he had a University of Louisville sleeveless T-shirt on with the number 34. When he saw that Circle K video a little after 1 o'clock in the morning, he had the very same shirt on, he testified. Well, the clothes are going to be so bloody, those are the clothes that should have been thrown away, and they were not.